Right. So this part of the module, we are going to revisit some of the things that we have discussed from our business analysis and software design module, where we are going to emphasize on software engineering design. And the new addition will be, I'm going to talk about, let me talk on software patterns, where especially is in object-oriented design, right? But before that, let's revisit what we have discussed. So these are the ideas that we have discussed, but still I see some of you while going through the scripts, I see some of you still have some issues. So maybe we will have more, design oriented, sessions for you to practice this. Okay. Under that, when it comes to system analysis and design, especially analysis, we use a lot of tools for data and process modeling. And under that, the one thing that actually we discussed last time was data flow diagrams. So the data flow diagrams, actually, we are going to, before we create our actual model, we try to model logically and try to understand what our system must do in information system. So when it comes to data and process modeling, usually we talk about three things: data flow diagrams, a data dictionary, and the process description. So let's briefly revisit data flow diagrams. I think the majority of you actually got the core ideas of this, but there are a few things I thought we should discuss again in this module. Now, there are a few notations people use. Actually, there are no fixed set of notations. People come up with the different, but these are two commonly used symbols we discussed. And I use the first set of symbols where we use rectangle shape to represent the process. And then we have data flows using lines. And then we have data stores and then external entities. Now, when you talk about or drawing, or when you're designing, few things you need to remember. Now, usually when we draw our first diagram, that means where our main software system is, we should put it in the context diagram. So context diagram should show your information system and only the external entities which interact with your information system. So usually we recommend that you will have it in a one single page. Obviously, it should fit to one page. And then your information system name should be the process name. For example, if you develop a system for grading, we can say grading system, right? Okay, so then that will be the context diagram, and then others are lower level ones, which you can have verb and then you have a descriptive noun. Things like, for example, if you say we have this grading system as the information system, then lower level processes could be, you can start with the verb, like establishing a grade book, assign final grade, produce grade report, and so on. So this was not I have noticed when I go through your scripts majority. So remember that let's try to follow some guidelines when you're designing data flow diagrams. Remember to use unique names with each the set of symbols we have. And then you have to have reference numbers as well. Some of you actually forgot to put reference numbers. So what the reference numbers we discussed last time was, we start with 0 for putting context diagram. And then next level, we put 1, 2, 3. The next level, it goes as 1.1, 1.2, 1.3. So remember, so this time, make sure that you follow these guidelines when you're developing data flow diagrams. Right. So context diagram, you already know what it is. So I'm going to switch into our example. So remember, this is our information system, and you see context diagram will have the information system, and we named it as 0. Important this numbering or follow some kind of a numbering system, because then you understand what is going on. So the first task is indicating your process like this. Then you indicate all the external entities, those who are interacting with the grading system. So we have two personnel interact with the system, that the student and the instructors. And then there could be other system also interact with the system. So this is student record system, which interact with the grading system. So the first step is you identify the whole information system, and then you identify all the external entities. Then you have to have flow lines. Now, flow lines, remember, there will be an arrow which indicates the direction of the flow, right? So you can say that student can submit work to the grading system, and student can get the graded work through the system, right? So these are the two interactions you will see with the students. Then instructor is the one who decide on the grading parameters, how to grade the submitted work. And also instructor can take grade report. And if you look at the interaction with the student record systems, so student record system may contain the class roster, so you can get it. And once you enter all the grades, you can actually submit back the final grade. So we notice that this number will represent each process, and 0 means our information system. So this is what we call context diagram, right? So you have only the process and a single process and all the entities. Remember, there are no data stores here. Very important. I think majority of you understood this even from the previous one. But remember, we don't represent the detailed description, but we are going to show very high level overview of the system. Right. Now, similarly, let's take another example, order system, which company uses the enter orders and apply payments. So here also, you can see we put this, we have only single process, but you will see a couple of external entities. We have customer, warehouse, sales rep, bank, and accounting. And remember, there's no verbs here, right? It's the data that we have to write down. For example, customer can place the order through the order system, and then order system can check whether the items are available in the warehouse. Let's say if the items are not available, you can reject the order. right? Let's say you have everything in the warehouse, then you can make an invoice, then customer can pay. So you can say, you can see the direction of their rows as well as what data transfer between the entity and the system. Similar to that, when you reach the payment is going to put into three other external entities. So usually sales rep get a commission, bank will get the deposit, and the accounting department will get the cash receipt entry. So this is very brief overview of how order system works. The next one is, once you have the entire system put it into the context diagram, you can go into lower level data flow diagram, which is sometimes called DFT diagram 0 or level 0 DFT. So what happens here, the entire process or the information system, we are going to break into important parts, right? So the idea is, let's say you have a big one, so that can be decomposed into multiple smaller ones. But remember, the input and output will be the same. Same goes here as well. Then you can also select one. You can have a very complete information on what functions happens within this. Right. Now, this is our grading system. Now we will see how we going to go into details. Now, this is 0. So that means if you want to go into detail of the system, then we'll name the processes and 1, 2, 3, and so on. Right? We are going one level deep from this point. So this is one example of looking at level 0 or diagram 0 of the grading system. Earlier we had one process. Now the single process broken down into 3 other processes. So we see here we have establishing a grade book, assigning final grade, and grade student work. So these are the 3, yes, the processes under the main information system. So similar to that, establishing grade book happens in 2 sides. One, you will get class roster from the school record system, student record system, and instructor provide the grading parameters, which can store as the class grade book under the grade book store. Then as a second process, the responsibility is assigning final grade. Grading details, you can take it from the database, and then final grades can be applied and that can be stored in the grade. Right. Then grade students' work. The student can submit the work and you can get back the graded work. Student grades can also be taken from this to grade book, so that all the information will be in single place. And we have a process number 4 as well. I missed last time. So you will get the grade report and grading parameters are put it there. And through this, you get the class information. So as you can see, level 0 will go one step deep. The single process 0 is broken down into 4 other processors or lower level processors. Let's say example for order system as well. So here we have one main process. So there are three sub-processors under the main one, order system. So the first one is filling the order, second one creating the invoice, third one you are applying the payment. So during the fill order, you get the order from the customer. You check in the warehouse whether the items are there. If the items are not there, then you are going to reject the order. So if the order can be completed, in the second process, we will create the invoice and then we'll that inform or store under the accounts receivable. Third one, you can get the invoice details here, and from this, it can update these data to about the payment details. The last process to apply the payment, you will have commission, then bank deposit or cash receipt enter. So any of these could be examples. Although we draw lower level diagrams of these problems, not all the problem you might not be able to go into deep level. So there are two techniques you can follow when you want to draw the lower level. Leveling and exploding is a process of drawing series of increasingly detailed diagrams until functional primitives are identified. So basically, you can go into details with leveling. Then balancing, you can maintain the consistency among the set of DFDs. And you can check whether the input and output flows are properly aligned, right? So whatever we have in input and output, you should have in the child as well, which is our first example here. So this one, the input is A and output is B. Whatever you have within that, you have to maintain A and B. So that was the whole idea. Right. So this is another step. So from one, we have fill order. If you are going to go into more details about this, this is how it might look like. Earlier we had fill order. Fill order has three parts. First one, you have to verify the order, prepare reject notice, and assemble order. So this is how one of the ways you can expand. Same thing. Again, you can see the main one is expanded here, right? So part 3 of the previous one, right? You can see we can have post payment, deposit payment, prepare accounting entry, pay commission. So these are the in detail version of the previous process. Okay, let's spend few minutes to follow the ideas that we have discussed so far. Let's first draw the context diagram. So using the ideas that we have discussed, draw a context diagram first for a library information system. Let me brief you again what you are supposed to do. So in this small exercise, first as a first part, I want you to design a context diagram to represent the library information system. So few things that I want to think about. The first one is the use of the system in the context diagram. We discussed that the context diagram only has one process, which is the system, and we have a number in system. The zero represent that it's the main one, and identify any external entities. So you can decide what external entities you are going to have in system. And then arrows should indicate what data will flow through this diagram, right? So those are the things that I want to think about. Have a rough sketch of the problem, and then share with me in my WhatsApp, or else after that I will put up a link in LMS. You can submit. But remember why we actually use these tools for uh, implementation, or it will be very easy once you have some reference points. Now, one way to implement this is you can look, once you have the data flow diagram, you can identify processes, the data stores, data flows, external entities, and then you can define the data structures. Then you can implement processes. All the processes will be some kind of functions, and that you can actually make use of, and then you can implement any data flows, right? So this is how you may, handle such a situation, right? So this is what Ramdit has shared with me about the library system. The first part I have actually request you to do is the context diagram, where we have a single process and it will be the system. So library system, that is correct. And we have numbered as 0, that is also perfect. And he has identified 3 external entities: his student, librarian, and admin staff. And then so these for each and every arrow we have to have some data. So for example, one idea is you don't have to say borrow book, because we just say book here, and this is book list. So this is again a list, item list. You don't have any verbs usually. So one comment for Randita to expand this is use only the data items that you are going to share with process to external entities, right? So basically student get the book list and then it's going to borrow. But then remember, we do not normally use any verbs, right, in the context level. Okay, thanks for sharing your answer. Anyone else would like to share your answer with me? Going back, when you are creating a context diagram, you will have a single process, and these are like nouns without any verbs. So you see we have order, invoice, payment. This is called completed order. Okay, now pick-in list, and then back deposit, commission, cash, recipient. So likewise, remember to use basically you should highlight only the data flows here. If you're asking like what is the reason we cannot use verbs, the idea is these are as the name says, we are looking only the data that transfer among these, right? So this is called data flow diagram. So basically these are data items we are transferring, right? So not particularly action. And what happens in the implementation, let's say you want to implement based on this data flow diagram. So all the processors will be the functions, right? In case, let's say you are going to use like implementation. So that could be your functions. So you can use, functions to implement all the processes. And then what we have is in this, we represent the data flows from processors to the external entities and so on, right? So the original idea of DFD is we represent data. So that's why you don't have any, verbs are not particularly used here. So that's the understanding. So as I told you earlier, these diagram shows you the highest level of the view. We sometimes call bird view, right? So basically it will provide us the overview of the system, right? So no processing steps. Basically we look at only the interactions. So that's why we have external entities here. Okay. Any more questions? Okay, shall we go to the next slide? But I would like to at least get some more, context diagram. Again, you can make mistakes. Okay, next move on to the detailed version of this. We were discussing library information system. Now go into details. Have one or two processors inside this. So in this particular case, we have 3 of such. Order system, we start with 0, but then filling order is one sub-process, create invoice is another sub-process, and finally apply payment is another sub-process. Right? And then so here as well, what information you are updating, maybe you have to put it here. Updating what? Right? Or updated data or updated information about the book. What? So that you need to put. Right? And then warehouse, maybe, I guess that may be the place where you keep the data. So there also you can think about what information you want to keep, right? So when we have maybe you can say here, instead of picking request, maybe you can say book list, right? Because you have a set of books that you want to check whether it's available. Maybe you can say book list. Think about it like that. So make sure that what you are transferring is some data item, right? Not to just say verb, requesting, but not the action, the verb that we are interested in. but what data, right? This is data flow diagrams. So the data should be specified here. So these are external entities in this particular case. So the data you should highlight. Thanks, Nisal, for sharing. So I hope you got an idea like how you should improve your diagram. So the suggestions I have made, this is perfectly all right, but we'll use singular names to when we are representing the external entities. And then this information should be the data. And when we say external entity, I told you like you better use users or the other systems rather than some other information, because that's what we are going to represent the data flow diagrams. Thanks, Rangi, for sharing your answer. Okay, so I got another. Let me see that one as well. May I know that is this the context diagram or the detailed version of the context diagram, like level 0 or level 1, like that? Is this a context diagram or is it the detailed version? Okay. So if you have, it's like your detailed version. In case if you are going to go into details of level 0, we sometimes say diagram 0. There are different ways of naming it, but when the context diagram is the highest level we have, and this is like one level lower, let's say. In that case, you should not have these. You should not have the number 0 because that comes from your previous one. So it's in the context diagram. So you should start with 1. So you should not have 0, and the systems are no longer there, because the system information should be available in the context diagram, right? So I think in your case, in case if you want to go into detail, first of all, maybe I would like to have both context diagrams and level 0, 1, because then only you can see, because the input and output should be the same, right? Now, before we discuss into detail, can you send me the context diagram as well? Then I'll come back to you again. Another diagram that I have received, this is perfectly all right. We have the system, we have librarian, we have student, we have admin. Those are okay. But then, okay, so the issue that I will see here is what we want to see is the data flows. Now, let me give you some corrections. Like, for example, this could be changed as not request book, maybe a requested book. Make it a noun, right? And then maybe then you can get the book that you have requested. Then I'm not really sure that I couldn't read the writing, but this is like, instead of saying notify, you can say notification, which is a noun with that piece of information, right? So that means the library system can notify, that means send a notification to the librarian, right? And when I say issued, you maybe say issued book or issued, or approval or approved book or whatever, so that should be data. So make sure that you understand very clearly when you put up. Maybe I can revisit the note again so that I will clear this out before making any words, right? The first thing that I actually discuss, and some of you have, doubts, is our context diagram. Now, when you say a context diagram, you have only one single process. So you see here, we have one single process. And when you're numbering, you put 0, and then process name is the system name. So order system. And these are external entities. These could be persons or organizations or other systems, right? So customer is a user, warehouse is a place, and sales rep another person, the bank, again, organization, the accounting, maybe it could be the accounting system, right? So you can see those are the external entities. And then when you see the arrows, see what happens. The customer places an order or in the order system, but we say order. This is what we are interested in. And if whatever the customer order, if it is not available with us, we send a order reject notice. You see it's a data item, right? And let's say you have everything in the system, then you send an invoice. And then customer makes a payment. And although makes a payment, we just say the payment. That's the word, not pay, right? And then see the interaction in the warehouse. So you send the picking list, whatever the ordered items, picking list. And then you will get the completed order. Now, once the customer make the payment will put in different places. A commission will go to sales rep. The deposit will be, the bank deposit will be in the bank, and cash receipt entry will record in the accounting. So that's how it should go. That is context diagram. Then when you look at go into detail level 1, these are the processors inside this. You see, order system at the system level. When you go inside, now we change the numbers as 1, 2, 3. There's no 0 here. And these are the processors. And when you create this code, these will be the functions. So for example, if I ask you to write a code for this, implementing this, I might write a function called fill order, create invoice, and apply payment, which represents, right, the processors inside the system. So we have fill order, create invoice, and apply payment. And the input output are the same. So for example, we had an order here. So this time that order goes to first process. Then here we have a order reject notice to the customer, again coming from process 1. Then invoice will come from the system. This time invoice will come from the second process, right? Then payment will be put into the system. That payment will go to the apply payment, right? And then similarly, if you go to picking list to warehouse, you see picking list goes to warehouse from the first process, and the completed order will come to the create invoice. Then after the payment, it will be distributed. You get a commission, bank deposit, the cash receipt entry. So that you can see here as well. Once you apply, you get the payment, you get the commission, bank deposit, and the cash receipt entry. So you can see the input and output, all these are important. One addition is a data store. That means in the detailed version, we can represent where we put our data as well. So in this particular case, we are going to keep it into a place where we have accounts receivable. So payment details are recorded and the invoice detail you will get it. Right. So I hope you got an idea. So what I do is complete the assignment and send me your answers. I will go through and then maybe we can have a detailed discussion next week, right? Together with your answers. Okay, so I would like to move further. Now, when we talk about data process modeling, I talk about three things. The first one is a data flow diagram. The second one is a data dictionary. So data dictionary is the place where we actually keep our systems data. And this data dictionary we use to collect, document, and organize the facts about the system. So this includes all the data flows, data stores, entities, and the processes, right? So it should completely describe all the elements and all the combination of these data elements. Right. Now, when you look at the details data element is, we can think it as a field, and this will be the smaller piece of data, right? Now, for example, if you take the student grade, that is a data element. Similar to that, we have what we call the data records. The elements will form a record, and record is a meaningful combination of related data elements, which may include in a data flow or in data store. Right. So that's about the dictionary. The third one we need to discuss is called process description tools. So under the process description tools, we discuss how to represent the making decisions, especially how to apply processes, right? And there also I have noticed, like some of you actually got a clear picture. I think you have a better understanding about the process description tools compared to data flow diagram. That I have noticed. So there are a few ways you can represent. The first one is you can have structured English like this, like a pseudocode. You can represent, few business rules, you might say. Okay, for example, in this one, we are going to accept or reject customer order based on their credit status and the product availability. Now that means to accept the order, customer status order, hopefully they have enough credits, it should be yes. And the product also should be available. So then only you can accept the order. So this is how we may use structured English. Now the second technique is you put it into a table structure, which we have already done. So any process we can put into a table structure like this. So when you're making any decisions, usually we have a set of conditions and then we form some rules. And then we have some actions. Now, if you, for example, if you take this one, this is called verify order business process, two conditions. And Damit, you can see order will be accepted only the product is in stock and the customer credit is okay. All other orders will be rejected. So there are two conditions we have to check. First one is the credit status. Second one is whether the product is available. So we know based on that, we have to either accept order or reject order. So the first step is you put into a table structure like this. You identify conditions, then you identify the actions. Then we can create rules. So since we have two conditions, we can have 4 rules. These two could be yes, 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 no, no, yes, no, no. That means all possible combinations are put in the table. Now we know that we accept the order when both conditions are set to yes. So when credit status is okay and the product is stock, so you are going to accept the order. And all the other cases, you are going to reject the order. So this is the table structure. Third one is the same thing you can put into a tree structure, which is more clear and which is more preferred way to do that. So in this particular example, it says preferred customers, that means loyal customers who order 1,000 or more entitled to 5% discount and an additional 5% discount if they use their charge card. Then preferred customers who do not order 1,000 or more will receive a 25 bonus. All other customers will receive $5 bonus coupon, right? So that's how they have put it. So the first, there are a few things we need to check. We check first whether it's a preferred customer. If you are not a preferred customer, then definitely you will get 5 bonus coupon. If you're a preferred customer and if you order more than 1,000, then you will see, right? More than 1,000, then what happens? If you are yes, you have few more things to check. If it is no, that means if you do not order 1,000 or more, then it's 25 bonus. Next, whether they have used their charge card. If it is yes, then 5 plus 5, 10% discount. If they have used charge card, no. If they have not, then you have 5% discount. So you see, you represent as a tree. So the 3 representations are, you can put into the English, structured English, then you can put into the table, or you can put it to the tree structure. So many of the time we prefer the tree structure because that will reduce the complexity of the decision process. So those are the ones we known as process description tools. So the 3 things that we have discussed. Right. A small exercise for you to try. Shall we? I think we have done this early as well, but I think if you can do it quickly, see that we can remind what we have discussed in the previous module. So we talk about enrolling a particular course, MIS 260, 2 prerequisite, 120 and 222. So ideally, you need to follow both the prerequisites. But if you complete one, and then if you get instructor permission, then you can allow to take MIS 260. Right? That was the scenario given to you. Create decision table, draw simplified decision tree. Why might you use decision tree rather than decision table? Shall we start?